What would you do if the person you trusted most, the one sworn to protect your family, your community, your very way of life, was hiding a secret so devastating it could destroy everything? How do you reconcile the image of a hero with the reality of a man capable of unthinkable betrayal? And how far would someone go to keep their darkest sins from coming to light? He was the law. She was just 17. Their lives should never have intertwined. But when they did, it wasn't just their own lives that were shattered. It was an entire town's sense of trust and safety. A secret affair, a pregnancy that couldn't be hidden, and then a murder that no one saw coming. How does someone go from being the face of justice to the center of one of the most chilling scandals this town has ever seen? And when the truth finally comes out, will it bring closure or only more questions? This isn't just a story about betrayal or tragedy. It's about power, trust, and how fragile both can be when secrets come crashing down. By the end of this video, you'll uncover how this shocking affair unraveled, why it led to such devastating consequences, and the haunting questions that remain unanswered to this day. Welcome to True Crime Unseen, where we hunt through into the darkest corners of human nature and uncover the most chilling true crime stories. Thank you, my viewer, and most especially my subscribers, for your support. Your encouragement helps us share true crime stories. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This was the kind of town where life moved at a slower pace, a place where neighbors stopped to chat on their porches, children played freely in the streets, and everyone knew each other by name. It was a close-knit community, the kind where people took pride in their shared history and traditions. But in a town like this, where nothing ever seemed to stay hidden for long, no one could have imagined the secret that would soon tear it apart. At the center of this community was the sheriff, a man who embodied trust and authority. He was admired for his dedication to keeping the peace and protecting the people he served. With decades of experience and a reputation as a family man, he was seen as a pillar of integrity. But beneath this polished exterior lay a hidden truth that would shock everyone who thought they knew him. She was just 17, a high school student with big dreams of leaving her small town behind. Bright and ambitious, she had plans for her future that extended far beyond the confines of her rural upbringing. But like many teenagers, she craved attention and validation, something she found in the most unexpected place. Rumors had started to circulate, whispers of inappropriate relationships involving someone in power. At first, they were dismissed as idle gossip. But as time went on, those whispers grew louder until they could no longer be ignored. What began as quiet speculation would soon erupt into a scandal that left this small town forever changed. It all began innocently enough, or so it seemed. The sheriff first met her during a school safety program he conducted at her high school. As their paths continued to cross at community events and local gatherings, what started as friendly conversations soon turned into something far more personal. Late-night drives on deserted roads became their escape from prying eyes. They exchanged messages filled with promises and confessions that neither could share with anyone else. For months, they carried on their relationship in secret, believing they could keep their connection hidden from the world. But everything changed when she discovered she was pregnant. The secret they had fought so hard to protect now threatened to unravel their lives completely. She wanted him to take responsibility, not just for her, but for their unborn child. And while he promised to handle things, it became clear that he was more concerned about protecting his reputation than doing what was right. As tensions between them escalated, so did her demands for accountability. She refused to remain silent any longer and threatened to expose everything if he didn't step up. For him, the stakes couldn't have been higher. His career, his family, his entire life hung in the balance. When she failed to show up at school or return home one evening, her family immediately reported her missing. The search began quickly. Volunteers scoured fields and forests while investigators worked tirelessly to piece together her last known movements. It wasn't long before suspicions turned toward someone unexpected, the sheriff himself. As investigators dug deeper into her disappearance, they uncovered evidence that pointed directly to him. Their relationship came to light through recovered text messages and witness testimonies from those who had seen them together in secret. But what truly shocked investigators was physical evidence linking him to her final moments, evidence that suggested foul play. Despite mounting evidence against him, he maintained his innocence. And as someone deeply embedded in law enforcement, he knew how to manipulate systems designed to hold people like him accountable. The news sent shockwaves through the community. People who had once trusted him now felt betrayed on an unimaginable level. Some refused to believe he could be guilty, while others demanded justice for the young girl whose life had been cut short. Her family's grief was compounded by anger at a system that seemed more interested in protecting one of its own than delivering justice for their daughter. In court, prosecutors laid out a damning case against him, detailing how his affair with her turned deadly when she threatened to expose him. Witnesses testified about his erratic behavior leading up to her disappearance, while forensic evidence painted a chilling picture of what happened that night. In the end, he was convicted of murder, a sentence that brought some measure of closure but left many questions unanswered. Could this tragedy have been prevented? And how many others had turned a blind eye to his behavior before it escalated? For this small town, life would never be the same again. The trust they once placed in their sheriff and in their justice system had been irreparably damaged. And while justice may have been served in court, the scars left behind by this betrayal will linger for years to come. As you've heard so far, this is a story that leaves us with more questions than answers. What could drive a man, someone trusted by an entire community, to cross such unimaginable lines? Was it fear of losing everything he had built? Or was it something deeper, something darker, that pushed him to take such extreme measures? Do you think justice was truly served in this case? Was the punishment enough to account for the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the loss of an innocent life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This isn't just a story about one man's actions. It's about how power can be abused and how trust can be shattered in an instant. If you've ever heard of similar cases where those in authority use their position to harm others, share them in the comments. These stories need to be told so that we can learn from them and demand accountability. And if you're fascinated by true crime stories like this one, cases that reveal the darkest corners of human nature, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We bring you stories that not only captivate but also challenge us to think critically about justice, power, and morality. Let's take a moment to reflect. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there warning signs that were ignored? And, most importantly, what lessons can we take from this case to ensure something like this never happens again? At its core, this story isn't just about betrayal or tragedy. It's about accountability. It's about asking hard questions and demanding answers when those in power fail us. What do you think? Could more have been done to protect her? And how do we rebuild trust when it's been so completely broken? This case reminds us how fragile trust can be, and how devastating it is when those we rely on betray that trust. What do you think truly happened that night? Was there more to this story than what came out in court? Let us know your theories in the comments section. And if you thought this case was shocking, stay tuned for our next story, a tale of betrayal even darker than this one. It started with whispers, rumors that seemed too outrageous to believe. A respected sheriff, a man who had built his career on trust and authority, involved with a high school student? Most dismissed it as small-town gossip, but those whispers would soon grow louder until they became impossible to ignore. Their connection was undeniable, but it was also forbidden. Late-night drives down empty back roads, secret rendezvous far from prying eyes. Every moment together was a risk. And yet they couldn't stop. For months, they managed to keep their relationship hidden. But secrets like these don't stay buried forever. But when investigators checked her phone records, they uncovered something that changed everything. Those text messages told a story of their own, a story of promises made and broken, of growing tension and desperation. She wanted him to take responsibility for what they had done. He wanted to protect his reputation at all costs. Some say he had everything to lose, and he knew it. Imagine a place so ordinary it would never raise suspicion. A barn on the outskirts of town, surrounded by nothing but fields and silence. It was here that investigators found the first piece of evidence that would unravel everything. But what they discovered inside wasn't just evidence. It was a clue that pointed directly to him. And yet, even as the evidence mounted against him, he denied everything. He claimed he was being set up, that someone else must have been responsible. But could his story hold up against what investigators had uncovered? The answer would come in the form of one final piece of evidence, a discovery so shocking it left even seasoned detectives speechless. Picture this: a seemingly peaceful neighborhood where everyone knows each other's names, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and trust their sheriff implicitly. Now imagine that same street lined with police cars and flashing lights, a community shaken to its core by the revelation that one of their own had betrayed them in the worst way possible. Her room was untouched, frozen in time, as if she had just stepped out for a moment. But she would never return. Investigators combed through every inch of her belongings, searching for answers hidden in plain sight. Then there was her car, left abandoned on an empty road miles from town. Inside they found traces of her life, her purse, her phone, but no sign of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. From the outside looking in, he seemed untouchable. A man who had spent years building trust and respect within his community. But behind closed doors, cracks were beginning to show. Some say he had everything to lose, and he knew it. His career, his family, his freedom. And when faced with losing it all, people are capable of anything. She kept her thoughts hidden away in her diary, a place where she could confide her hopes and fears without judgment. But even here, there were hints of trouble brewing beneath the surface. Her words painted a picture of someone who felt trapped, someone who wanted out but didn't know how to escape. And then came that fateful night, the night when everything changed. What happened during those final hours? What drove him to make decisions that would destroy not only his life, but also hers? But when investigators pieced together what happened that night, they uncovered something no one could have expected, something that would change this case forever. This story unfolds across a few key places in this quiet town. The sheriff's office, where he built his career and reputation as a protector of the people. The high school, where their paths first crossed. And finally, the crime scene, a location that would become the epicenter of a tragedy no one could have foreseen. The town itself seemed frozen in time, a place where life was simple and predictable. But beneath this idyllic surface, secrets were festering. Secrets that would soon tear this community apart. In his office, he was seen as a man of authority and integrity. But when no one was watching, his phone became a lifeline to a secret he couldn't afford to let slip. She was just 17, a girl with dreams of leaving this small town behind, But instead of focusing on her future, she found herself caught in a relationship that would ultimately cost her everything. As investigators dug deeper into her disappearance, these documents began to tell a story that pointed to someone no one wanted to believe could be involved. To understand how this tragedy unfolded, we must look back at key moments leading up to that fateful night. March 15th. Sheriff meets teenager during a school safety program. June 3rd. First reported sighting of them together outside school hours. September 10th. Text messages reveal escalating tensions between them. October 4th. Teenager reported missing by family. During his trial, prosecutors presented damning evidence against him. Witnesses testified about seeing them together late at night. Forensic experts detailed what they found at the crime scene. The defendant's DNA was found at the scene. Witnesses reported seeing his vehicle near her home on multiple occasions. But it was this piece of evidence, a discovery made inside an abandoned barn, that became the smoking gun in this case. Her family's grief was immeasurable. They spoke about her dreams, her potential, and how much she'd been looking forward to starting a new chapter in life. She wanted to go to college and make something of herself. "We just want justice for our daughter." Investigators had already uncovered text messages and witness testimonies linking the sheriff to the teenager, but what they found next would turn this case upside down. The trial was already filled with shocking revelations, but just when it seemed like everything had been laid bare, a new piece of evidence emerged, one that would leave even the most seasoned investigators stunned. She confided in a close friend shortly before her disappearance, revealing something that had been weighing heavily on her. What she said would later become a critical piece of this case, but it also raised even more questions about what really happened that night. So far, we've uncovered how their relationship began, a secret affair between a man in power and a vulnerable teenager. We've seen how their connection spiraled out of control when she discovered she was pregnant and demanded accountability, and we've explored the mounting tensions that led to her disappearance. But now, it's time to dive deeper into what really happened on that fateful night. What led investigators to uncover the truth? And how did this small town react when the full extent of the betrayal was revealed? We've seen how prosecutors built their case against him, piece by piece, uncovering damning evidence that pointed directly to his involvement. But there are still lingering questions. Could someone else have been involved? And was justice truly served? This case isn't just about one man's actions. It's about how power can corrupt and how trust can be shattered in an instant. As we move forward, let's take a closer look at how this tragedy unfolded and what lessons can be learned from it. Hidden within her phone were messages that revealed just how desperate she had become and how far he was willing to go to silence her. This barn held more than just physical evidence. It was also a place where secrets were hidden in plain sight. Could these initials point to someone else who knew about their relationship? For some in this town, he wasn't just their sheriff. He was someone they trusted completely. This photograph serves as a haunting reminder of what was lost, not just for her family, but for an entire community. There were people who knew more than they were willing to say, people who could have changed the outcome of this case if they had come forward. But why didn't they? This story began with a secret, a forbidden relationship between a trusted sheriff and a vulnerable teenager. It was a connection that should have never happened, but once it did, it set off a chain of events that would lead to heartbreak and tragedy. At first, their relationship was hidden in plain sight. Late-night drives, secret meetings, and promises whispered in the shadows. But when she discovered she was pregnant, everything changed. The delicate balance of secrecy began to crumble as she demanded accountability. And when those demands grew louder, so did his desperation to keep his life intact. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through this small town. Investigators worked tirelessly to piece together her final movements, uncovering evidence that pointed directly to the man everyone thought they could trust. Text messages revealed their escalating tensions. Witnesses came forward with damning accounts. And finally, physical evidence tied him to her tragic end. The investigation led to his arrest and trial, a trial that exposed not only his crimes, but also the betrayal of an entire community. For her family, the conviction brought some measure of justice, but for many, questions still remain. Could someone else have known about their relationship? Were there warning signs that were ignored? And most hauntingly, could this tragedy have been prevented? Her family and friends are left with memories of a life cut far too short, a young girl who had dreams of leaving her small town behind, but instead became a victim of betrayal and violence. This case reminds us how fragile trust can be, and how devastating it is when those we rely on abuse their power. It's a sobering reminder that secrets, no matter how well hidden, have a way of coming to light. And when they do, they can destroy lives in ways we can't begin to imagine. How does someone go from being a symbol of safety and authority to the center of such unimaginable tragedy? And what can we do as a society to prevent those in power from abusing their positions? What do you think could have been done differently to prevent this tragedy? Were there warning signs that should have been taken more seriously? And do you believe justice was truly served in this case? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your opinions in the comments below. Your voice matters. And if you're fascinated by true crime stories like this one, stories that uncover not just what happened but why, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to light. If you thought this case was shocking, wait until you hear about another scandal involving law enforcement that took an even darker turn. In our next video, we'll uncover how another trusted figure used their position to commit unthinkable crimes, and how they almost got away with it. At its heart, this isn't just a story about betrayal or tragedy. It's about accountability. It's about asking hard questions and demanding answers when those in power fail us. Because if we don't hold them accountable, who will? If you found this story compelling, please like the video, subscribe to True Crime Unseen, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another chilling true crime story. Thank you for watching.